I think we all knew it was inevitable that Bray Wyatt would make his return, but today it seems like we have some very good concrete information. I'm going to show you guys the tweets in just a moment. If you're new to this channel, I typically bring you news videos, multiple stories throughout the day, but today I want to spend a little time talking about Bray Wyatt, and we're going to cut this down into two sectors. One, I'm going to show you the tweets. Two, I'm going to fantasy book, and I think my fantasy booking here, it's split into two sectors as well, AEW and WWE. I think both options are going to work, and I want to hear your guys' feedback in the comment section down below. So first, we're going to take a look at Twitter, because this right here was a very, very interesting, with all the tweets that Bray Wyatt put out today, a lot of people are talking. It kind of started with this image right here. I'll pull it up. It's an image of a bug, butterfly, I don't know what the hell you want to call this. Nonetheless, the picture of the Fiend is crossed off in red. Now, if you take a very close look at these little wings right here, maybe it's teasing a new mask, new character, something like that. I'm not too sure. But nonetheless, the Fiend is marked off with the red stencil or whatever. Nonetheless, if you scroll up, that was his new profile pic, by the way. If you scroll up, Windham Rotunda tweets, everything good that's ever happened to me first came a period horrible suffering. I never ask why. I just wait for the rough part to end. I was chosen for whatever reason, and I've got shit to do. It doesn't hurt anymore. It burns. I'm ready now. It burns. What is happening this upcoming Sunday? Hell in a Cell. I'm tired of watching. Tired of hearing irrelevant clowns speculate how I'll be perceived. Tired of hearing about my greed, my desire questioned. Wherever and whenever I decide to return, I'll remind everyone why they know my name again and again. Believe in me. Hashtag I found it. And then the final tweet was, patience, it's almost time. So here's the thing. I really want to dissect this specific tweet. I'm tired of watching, tired of hearing irrelevant clowns speculate how I'll be perceived, tired of hearing about my greed, my desire question wherever and whenever I decide to return. This tweet right here is very interesting because obviously there's been a lot of people who have talked about how Windham Rotunda will be perceived in AEW. And obviously that brings up a lot of conversation amongst people in the comments. Now, first things first, I support the idea of Bray Wyatt in AEW or in WWE. However, I think AEW's audience may not support the idea of Bray Wyatt. And this is just based on all the videos I have made in the past where we spoke about the rumors, Grand Slam, Full Gear, things like that. It always struck me as AEW's audience not really wanting Bray Wyatt because they're not too impressed with his in-ring ability for whatever reason. I don't know. I always thought Bray Wyatt was good enough in the ring to put on a good match. Obviously, AEW has a very different style, but I think AEW needs characters, and I think Bray Wyatt would also just add a huge layer of greatness to their show. So we're going to fantasy book two different scenarios, and the first one is Bray Wyatt at Hell in a Cell and Bray Wyatt in AEW. So starting with WWE, Hell in a Cell obviously coming up this Sunday. I don't know what the plans are for WWE and Cody Rhodes. I think it's inevitable at some point Cody gets an opportunity at the World Championship, maybe even takes it off Roman Reigns. But until they get to that point, I think Cody Rhodes needs massive feuds, only big feuds that will make Cody Rhodes getting to Roman Reigns that much more interesting. So I think the possibility of Bray Wyatt having some sort of interruption at the Hell in a Cell match with Seth Rollins, accompanying Seth Rollins could be a very good scenario based on their history at Hell in a Cell. I can see Cody Rhodes winning the match, and then post-match, Bray Wyatt shows up. New character, new mask, new everything. I can see a whole different version of Bray. Somehow, for some reason, helping Seth Rollins to take on the American Nightmare. And I know everybody's not going to agree with this, but I think Cody Rhodes having another roadblock to get through to get to Roman would be a really, really good story for the summer until the time is right. So Bray Wyatt being there, in my opinion, makes a lot of sense. Now, I think Bray Wyatt also attacking Seth Rollins could be really cool too, because at that point, we don't really know if he's a heel or babyface. He's just going after everybody. That could be a really cool thing in my opinion as well. But I think it would be more likely that we see Bray Wyatt at Hell in a Cell take out Cody Rhodes after the match is over. If for some reason Seth and Bray were to kind of start a pairing together, it'd be very interesting. I don't think that would be likely, but I find that to be a very interesting scenario based on their past, especially when you consider The Fiend and everything that he went through with Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell years ago. Now, also one thing I want to mention too is I've always said that Bray Wyatt should never be defined by wins and losses, which is another reason why I think some people are kind of weird about the idea of him going to AEW, because wins and losses matter in AEW. He is more character driven, not necessarily wrestling driven. Again, I don't necessarily agree with that statement, but that's how a lot of people perceive Bray Wyatt to be. So I think Bray Wyatt can go to WWE. He doesn't have to be in the world title picture whatsoever. But with that being said, I think him and Cody could be a really, really good storyline. Now let's talk about AEW, because this is where I think it's important that people don't get confused here. Bray Wyatt and AEW, the reason why I'm interested in it is because I think AEW needs characters on their show. I do 1000% stand behind that statement. I've said it 8 months ago. I'll say it today, and I will say it 10 months from now. AEW needs characters. I don't care how good of a wrestler you are. You need characters. You need storylines. You need consistency. Bray Wyatt is on a whole different level when it comes to storytelling, and I'm going to put it out there that I don't believe anybody in AEW can come to terms of being as good as Bray Wyatt when it comes to that next level storytelling. There are a lot of great wrestlers and superstars in AEW. I 1000% believe that. But when it comes to being able to get shitty things over, Bray Wyatt can do that. I mean, for crying out loud, Bray Wyatt was wearing a sweater and playing with puppets, and he got it over. You know what I mean? This guy is just that good. He can get over anything. I think Bray Wyatt has the ability to connect with the crowd. He has the ability to work on the microphone. He has an ability to tell the story in the ring. And I think AEW somewhat lacks that. And I understand that AEW is a different product, but I imagine if Bray Wyatt were in AEW, it could be a really good scenario for AEW long term. So now this is where I think, fantasy booking, you can do this a million ways, right? And obviously timing is everything. Right now it's a little bit more difficult because Forbidden Door. But I imagine the perfect scenario of bringing in Bray Wyatt would actually be to go after Bryan Danielson based on their history in WWE. Now, I know a lot of people would disagree with that, but I imagine Bray Wyatt going after Bryan Danielson would be a really, really nice way to do some storytelling, to talk about their history, and Bray Wyatt never forgets. And obviously, Bray Wyatt would be under a new character, a new name, if he's not in WWE. So obviously, Wyatt 6 is a very interesting Twitter name, but for the most part, a lot of people expect him to be called Windham Rotunda if he's not in WWE. So with that being said, I think him going after Bryan Danielson would be the perfect way to start introducing a storyline for him immediately. I also like the idea of Bray Wyatt just attacking anybody, baby faces, heels, it doesn't really matter. And then eventually it'll get to a point where now he's explaining himself and why he's doing what he's doing. Bray Wyatt is also in a very interesting scenario because we have seen different layers to Bray Wyatt. We've seen him, the Louisiana swamp character. We've seen him as the Fiend. We've seen him as just regular Bray Wyatt. Like, what I would do if I'm AEW or WWE, if these are the two companies that have an opportunity to bring him in, I would do multiple phases of Bray Wyatt, multiple characters, no different than Cactus Jack, Mankind, Dude Love. Like, I would do something very, very similar to that. Just like how Mick Foley did. And each character should have a characteristic about them. I would have a version that is a more amplified version of The Fiend. I would have a Bray Wyatt version that's more of like the spooky, like alt-like leader type of thing. And then I would do like a regular version of Bray with a different mask or face paint or something like that. I want to go crazy with this. And I really hope, one thing that AEW never gets credit for, but they should get credit for, is they do a really good job with video packages and they don't put them on TV very often. This would be the way to do it. So Bray Wyatt's on Twitter. He's talking about his return. Who knows what the hell is going to happen, but either way, I'm excited about it. I want to know what you guys think down below.